Hello and welcome to this episode of Happy Baking. It's that wonderful cookie-filled time of year, and I'm excited to bring you another delicious cookie from my recipe box. In this episode, I am going to be making delicious chocolate-flecked peppermint meringue cookies. Winter is actually an amazing time to make meringue where I live because it's really dry and less humid. So I often make meringue cookies around the holiday season just for sharing, for gifting, sometimes even to put inside cookie boxes. This cookie is my dream meringue cookie, flavored with vanilla paste, peppermint extract, and lots of flecks and studs of dark chocolate. It's crispy on the outside and chewy in the center. It is so good. I like to make these cookies huge, or what I like to refer to as bakery style. I love them so much and I can't wait to get started. So let's get baking. Before we get started on this cookie, let's talk about some important ingredients. This recipe is super simple at its core and has a very short ingredient list. But there's a few ingredients in this recipe that are important to get just right, so let's talk about them. First up, this recipe calls for some finely chopped chocolate. One of the keys to this recipe is using lots of finely chopped bittersweet or semi-sweet chocolate. This is really a time to buy a good bar or two of chocolate because the chocolate flavor really shines in this recipe. This is also one time I'm going to insist absolutely no chocolate chips, y'all. Don't do it. Chocolate chips contain stabilizers, and this is really a time that we want none of that. Those stabilizers help encourage the chocolate chip to keep its shape even after baking, but we want little flecks of chocolate distributed throughout our meringue cookies. We don't want to use chips here. This is a time we want to chop. Another important ingredient is red gel food coloring. We're gonna get the peppermint flavor in these cookies from peppermint extract, but to give it that peppermint look, we need a little help from some red food color. We're only going to partially fold that food coloring in, and it's gonna give the meringues a streaky effect. Now that all my chocolate is ready, it's time to make the meringue. For this recipe, we're going to be making a French meringue, which is also sometimes known as a common meringue. This method refers to the easiest way of making meringue, which is just simply whipping the egg whites and sugar to stiff peaks. Because the cookies are going to be baked later, we don't need to do any of the heating of meringue like you sometimes do for Swiss or Italian meringue. Because these cookies are going to be baked, we don't need to heat the egg whites ahead of time or make a sugar syrup to help cook the eggs. They're gonna get baked in the oven. I'll start by adding the egg whites to the mixer, and the electric mixer is fitted with the whip attachment. I'm also going to add some fine sea salt and cream of tartar. I'm gonna start by mixing the egg whites on medium speed until they look frothy. Then I'm gonna gradually raise the speed to high and keep whipping to soft peaks, 2 to 3 minutes more. Starting the egg whites on a lower speed helps to break up the protein strands that are inside the egg whites. This loosens those protein strands, allowing more air to get inside. This helps the egg whites turn into a better, more aerated egg foam. The reason I'm gonna gradually raise the mixer speed is just because I'm trying to be nice to my mixer. Raising it really fast can be a little tough on your mixer's motor. Once the egg whites reach soft peak, we can start gradually adding the sugar. Then I'm gonna keep whipping on high speed for 4 to 6 minutes more until it reaches stiff peaks. We have achieved stiff peaks. You could ski the slopes this holiday season, or you could just make your own snowy wonderland, aka meringue. That's what I'll be doing. We're gonna add one more ingredient just to give these a little bit more chew and become more cookie-like. It's just a very small amount of cornstarch. So I like to sift it in just because that cornstarch loves to clump up. Then I'll mix it on low speed to completely combine it. There's a little bit left in my bowl. I firmly believe that everyone needs a tiny sifter for moments like these. After the cornstarch is incorporated, I can also add my flavorings. I'm gonna add some vanilla bean paste or vanilla extract, and of course some peppermint extract. Just remember with that peppermint extract, a little goes a long way. I'm gonna fold these last two ingredients, the finely chopped chocolate and the food coloring, in by hand, just because we've made this beautiful structure with our meringue, and I just wanna mix everything till it's combined, but I don't wanna work it too much more. First, the chocolate. I actually love to get all these little tiny flecks, the dusty pieces in there. Dusty sounds gross, but you know, the chocolate dust, the like fine powder that's been made from chopping, just because it's really gonna create little flecks and studs of chocolate all throughout the meringue. This makes me happy. See, it's got all that chocolate all throughout. So finally, I'm gonna add some red food coloring. One of the main things here is to not mix too much because I wanna maintain that streaky effect. And remember, you can always add more food coloring, but it is hard to take it away. And by hard, I mean impossible. So just be a little gradual when you're doing it if you're not sure. I'm gonna add a few dots kind of all over the surface. And I'm just gonna fold a few times to make it streaky, really trying to dig into the bottom so that I get some bits that are white and some bits that are red. If you like sort of that pink peppermint look, you can always mix it in more. I'm already gonna stop right here because if I go any farther, it's gonna start to just all be pink with no little white pockets. So now I just need to get my baking sheets ready. I'm gonna go grab them and we'll start scooping our cookies. I really like to make really large meringue cookies because they're crunchy on the outside and so chewy in the center. And when they've got all those little chocolatey bits, it just can't be beat. So I just kind of freehand these and let them make pretty organic shapes. But if you want them to be more even, you can make a guide for yourself. I usually make these about 4 inches or 10 centimeters in diameter. You can always trace a circle using a guide on your parchment paper. Just be sure to turn the parchment paper upside down so that ink isn't coming in contact with the meringue once you scoop it. Today, I'm not even gonna mess with those guides. I'm just gonna go freehand. You can either use 2 spoons to scoop this, which helps give a little bit more of an organic look, or you can use a cookie scoop. I'll show you how to do it with both. I'm gonna scoop 5 giant meringue cookies onto each tray. This recipe makes 10 cookies total. Don't they look so pretty already? I just can't wait to dive into these later. They are truly gigantic, delicious, impressive cookies for the holiday season. I've got the oven preheated at 350 degrees Fahrenheit, 175 degrees Celsius, with the oven racks in the upper and lower thirds of the oven. I'm gonna put both trays of meringue cookies in the oven and then immediately lower the temperature to 300 degrees Fahrenheit, 150 degrees Celsius. Then I'll bake the meringue cookies for 30 minutes. I'll turn the oven off and leave the meringue cookies inside without opening the oven door for 30 minutes more. Afterward, I'll take the cookies out and let them cool to room temperature on the baking sheets. Check out our final peppermint meringue cookies. As you can see, I've got some color variants here. This is my first batch and I used a bit more red food coloring. And then I also have some here that still have some streaks of red, but it's overall a little bit pinky. It really is up to you. And of course, these will still taste like peppermint, even if you don't dye them red. So if you're somebody who likes to steer clear of food coloring, that's an option too. They're still really, really yummy, even if they're just white and studded with chocolate. So speaking of studded with chocolate, I think I need to give one a try. I'm just too excited. Crunchy on the outside, so chewy inside, and little bits of chocolate all throughout and just the right amount of peppermint. These are one of my favorite cookies. They're so addictive. And I know they look huge. It's so easy to eat these. They're so light and delicious. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Happy Baking. I just love these giant meringues like this. You can really enjoy sort of a soft, organic shaping method. You don't have to put a lot of work into that part of it, but you still get that like fluffiness of them, and you can just really enjoy meringue cookies at their best. As always, the recipe I made in this episode is linked in the video description below, so head down there if you want to snag it for yourself. If this episode inspires you to get baking, please let me know in the comments or use hashtag #HappyBaking on social media. I love to see what you're making in your kitchens. Until next time, wishing you happy holidays and happy baking.